WMUR News 9.
You say, Madam Foreperson, that the verdict is guilty. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
The ringleader of the vicious Mount Vernon murder sentenced to life in prison for his role in the horrific attack.
Kim and I had dreams, hopes, and aspirations like any family, and all those are now shattered.
Stoic until the very end, the husband of Kimberly Cates shares his memories as he talks about the impact her death has had on him and the couple's only child. Also, investigators back on the scene of two suspicious deaths in Auburn, what they're revealing about what happened to a mother and son inside of this home.
And in weather, clouds and showers will linger in spots for tonight, but brighter skies are ahead. A look at when the latest system pulls away.
And how do you find the defendant, Steven Spader, in indictment 2010-241, charging purposeful first-degree murder? Guilty or not guilty? Guilty.
Showing no emotion, on his 19th birthday, Steven Spader was found guilty on all counts in the murder of Kimberly Cates and attack on her daughter Jamie. The trial lasted 2 weeks, but took jurors less than 90 minutes to reach that verdict.
One by one, the 6 men and 6 women filed out of the courtroom just moments before Spader was sentenced to life in prison. Also there for the verdict, as he has been for this entire trial, was the husband of Kimberly Cates. And today, in his own words, he revealed for the very first time the impact this brutal crime has had on him and his only child, Jamie.
We do have live team coverage from inside and outside of the courtroom. Let's go first, though, to Amy Cavino, who has been following this case from day one. Amy?
Good evening. Mr. Cates has been a study in restraint and composure for weeks now. In his impact statement this afternoon, instead of anger and vitriol, Mr. Cates gave a statement of gratitude to the jury, to the investigators, to the judge, to his employer, even to the media, who he thanked for giving him the space that he requested. In sharp contrast, this morning, Steven Spader entered the courtroom appearing cocky and irreverent.
I'm saying no.
Today is Steven Spader's 19th birthday. His father giving him 2 thumbs up as he enters the courtroom. But a short while later, Spader learns he will spend the rest of his natural life in a cage, as Judge Abramson called it, in her scathing remarks post-sentencing.
I could go on for days and days and days about the depth of your depravity, but it is sufficient to say that you belong in a cage.
Courtroom 4 was stock still and silent as the jury read guilty, guilty, guilty on all 6 charges, with Spader's mother weeping quietly in her seat. But when David Cates rose to read his victim's impact statement, even seasoned investigators were reduced once again to tears.
Kim and I had dreams, hopes, and aspirations like any family, and all those are now shattered. She was my soulmate, my best friend, my companion.
David told the court about talking to his daughter for the first time after 12 hours of surgery following the attack.
She told me what happened to her mom, and we had a good long cry together. She then told me she was disappointed about missing her kneecap testing.
Mr. Cates wondered aloud about the emotional toll that this unfathomable crime will take on his young daughter in the years to come, and relished telling everyone that this year, Jamie played lacrosse, field hockey, and is learning to ice skate, despite the barbaric attack that left her scarred and claimed some of her toes and more.
While not being as fast on her feet as she once was, Kim's spirit, tenacity, and love for life runs strong in Jamie's veins.
Mr. Cates didn't offer Spader the courtesy of eye contact or the ego stroke of name acknowledgement, except to say,
Coming sentencing is not justice. My only hope is that very soon true justice finds you.
You know, understandably, so much of the focus of the past 2 weeks has been on the perversity of now convicted murderer Steven Spader. But this trial ended with a focus on life. 1 lost and 2 that must go forward, as Mr. Cates said this afternoon, to live the lives that Kim wants them to live. We are live in Nashua this evening. Amy Cavino, WMUR News 9.
And at the top of Amy's story there, you heard Spader's comments about the jury and his birthday today. Prosecutor Jeff Strelzin told the media after sentencing that comment just shows the type of person that Spader is. Spader's defense attorney has also made some brief statements. Our Heather Hamill was there for those.
While the prosecution had a lot to say, the defense kept it brief, taking no questions and only giving us their reaction to the guilty verdict.
We're obviously disappointed with this verdict.
Defense attorney Jonathan Cohen stood with co-counsel Andrew Winters after their client Steven Spader was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to the rest of his life in prison.
We believe everyone deserves defense, and we certainly tried to zealously advocate for our client as best as we could.
It's gratifying to have them come back guilty on all the charges for Kim and Jamie. It's gratifying for that.
Prosecutor Jeff Stralzen was pleased with the verdict, as well as the judge's tough words for Spader, telling him he belonged in a cage. Stralzen said he couldn't agree more.
I don't think those comments would be surprising to anyone who sat through this trial and listened to all the evidence in this case.
Stralzen wasn't surprised by the quick verdict and said the jury took their work seriously. He also wasn't surprised by Spader's demeanor during the trial or his threats toward witnesses during testimony that the judge scolded Spader for.
I'll just say for now he was making gestures. They were inappropriate and some were threatening, so the judge took steps to address them, and they eventually stopped.
Spader's parents declined to comment and tried blocking their faces from cameras as they left court. Attorneys on both sides admit this trial was difficult for everyone involved.
We do this stuff for a living, but it doesn't mean that we get used to it.
Now, David Cates also declined to speak to the media. He left the court through a side door. Spader's attorneys have not yet said whether or not they plan to appeal. They do have 30 days to do so. Reporting live, Heather Hamill, WMUR News 9.
All right, Heather, thanks. Now, as we said, the entire trial lasted about 2 weeks.
A lot of evidence was presented and 45 witnesses took the stand. So joining us now to help sort it all out tonight is legal analyst Mark Stevens. And Mark, thank you first for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jen.
So the jury returned this verdict after deliberating for really just an hour and a half today. Is that unusual for such a lengthy trial as this?
Yes, it is, especially considering the fact that they had to consider 6 separate crimes, 9 days of testimony, 45 witnesses' testimony, hundreds of exhibits, and 6 sets of jury instructions about each of the individual charges. And it would seem that not a single juror had a single doubt about a single charge to come back that quick. They came back with a verdict in roughly the same amount of time as the jury instructions took.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. And you know, Spader was given consecutive sentences on all charges. Do me a favor, explain to our viewers why the judge would make a point to do this.
Yeah, it would seem to many people that if he was serving life without the possibility of parole, then what's the big deal about the other sentences? The reason that those other sentences may become important is if he were to prevail on an appeal or the type of post-conviction relief on the primary charges, the murder charges, he could still be incarcerated on all of the other charges that he was sentenced to.
Mark, were you at all surprised that Spader chose not to address the court at all?
Given his demeanor throughout the trial, I think it wasn't much of a surprise that he did, and it wouldn't have been much of one if he didn't. He's very disaffected throughout much of the trial, acted kind of inappropriately throughout parts of it. It wouldn't have surprised me if he said something crazy, and it didn't surprise me that he didn't say anything at all.
Okay, Mark, thanks to you for not only tonight, but the past 2 weeks you've spent with us helping us wade through all of this. So we appreciate your time, certainly. Well, the focus has been on the first-degree murder and attempted murder charges that Steven Spader was convicted of. He is going to prison for life without parole. He was also convicted on 3 more charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, as well as burglary and witness tampering for threatening a teenager before his arrest last year. One other man is also charged with the murder of Kimberly Cates and the attempted murder of Jamie. Christopher Gribble is scheduled for trial beginning in February of next year. Our extensive coverage of this case continues online. You can view today's verdict and the sentencing at WMUR.com. Also, you can view pictures from the entire Spader trial. Also, read up on each of the Mount Vernon murder suspects and view a timeline of this case. There's also a link to that. You'll find it right on our homepage.
All right, moving on to other news.